Alright class, in this lesson we're going to deal with more logarithms, and specifically their properties and how to expand in this lesson, and next lesson we'll look at compressing the logs. First of all, we've got three properties. The first property has to do with multiplication, and we have a log of two things being multiplied next to each other. You can rewrite it as the log of the first thing, the x, plus the log of the second thing, the y. And then we've got property number 2, which is the division property. And then what you're doing is you take the top thing, write it out as a positive log, and then whatever's on the bottom you write out as a negative log. Okay. Now take a closer look at that. What we've got going on here at the first property and the second property are very similar. These are both positive, in other words they're on the top of a fraction bar, they're over 1, so they came out as a positive log and a positive log. This second property, the x is in front, so it gives you a positive log, and the y on the bottom comes out with a negative log. So if there's any time where you have another, like say if there was another z on the bottom, that means you would just put another minus log z. So whatever's on the bottom gets a negative log, and whatever's on the top gets a positive log. So property 1 and 2 are very similar to each other. Now let's take a look at property number 3. This is the exponential log, where we take our power, the r, and we move it out in front, and we write it here, as you can see. And you can go the other way also. You can rewrite this r to go over here and write log base b of x to the r power. So we'll see how this works with actual numbers on this next slide. So we're going to express this as a sum or a difference. In other words, we're going to expand the logs. Okay. So we've got log base 5, that gets written, notice it's whatever the base is gets written in the expansion. You don't change the base. So that means I'm going to rewrite this as a log of a base 5, and because it's multiplication and they're both on top of the fraction bar, they're both going to get positive logs. So log base 5 of 13, and then plus log base 5 of 11. This is the correct expansion of this log, where the multiplication is the break between the logarithms. The multiplication breaks out, and the difference between them turns into addition. Okay. The second question here, we've got log base 5 of x divided by 3. Again, the x is on top, so it gets the positive log. The 3 is on bottom, it's going to get the negative log. So we take and write log is equals log base 5 of x, that's the positive log, and then minus log base 5 of 3. So we rewrote it where the x got the positive log, and the 3 on the bottom ends up with the negative log over here. Okay. Now, the final one here, we've just got numbers. We take the 2 and we move it out in front, and that rewrites to be 2 log base 5 of x. So whenever you have an exponent, you can just move it out in front, and now we have 2 log base 5 of x. So let's look at some more examples. Now we've got more things happening at once. So we're expanding logs, and of course my little joke is that's like waterlogging them, because the way that you expand wood is you just kind of soak it in water. Well, that's kind of what we're doing here. We're spreading it out, causing some expansion. And notice whatever's on top, there's multiple things, and they got multiplication happening. They're all going to get positive logs. What's on the bottom, that gets a negative log. So you rewrite it. We're going to have 3 positive logs and 1 minus log. So log base 5 of 3 plus log base 5 of x plus log base 5 of y. And then now the z is on the bottom, so you get a minus log base 5 of z. Okay? Now what's happening is, for each number, each individual term in here, they all get their own log. It's just whether or not it's a positive log or a negative log, okay, with multiplication and division. Alright? Let's take a look at the next one. So we're going to waterlog this, expand it, and we should have 1, 2, 3 different logs. Okay? And so we rewrite this as, we get 1 positive log for the one on top, so log base 2 x to the 4th. And then we have 2 more logs, but they're both negative, so negative log base 2 root y. and then another negative log base 2 of z to the third power. Okay, so again, because I had one thing on the top, that gave me one positive log, and each one of these things on the bottom, I got my two negative logs. Alright. Now this problem is not completely done. We have to take all exponents, and to fully expand them, we have to take our exponents and move them out in front. So I've got an exponent here. The root is actually an exponent, and this 3 also needs to get moved out in front. So each one of these exponents needs to get moved out in front. Now let's first of all back up and talk about the root being an exponent. The square root of y is really y to the 1/2 power. Because whatever a root you have is, if there's a 2 right here, because it's the square root, and it's really y to the first power on the inside, what you're supposed to remember is that we've got y to the first power and the second root. That turns into the fraction power of y to the 1/2. Now let's say it was y to the cube root of y to the 5th power. Okay, well that would change this to be the 5/3 power. Okay, so whatever the exponent is here, it goes on top. Whatever the root is the lower part. Okay, so anyway, that's not what we have, but what we need to replace it with, or replace this root of y, rewrite it to be the 1/2 power. The reason why I did that, again, is because I'm taking all these powers and I'm going to be moving them all out in front of the logs to finish this problem. So the final answer should be 4 log base 2 of x minus 1/2 log base 2 of y minus 3 log base 2 of z. And that's your final answer. You've expanded it as far as you can. Okay? So take a look at the second lesson that I've got coming here for compressing logs going backwards.